Hello and welcome to another We Are Developers Live. You can see this on YouTube, but you can also see it at wearedevelopers.com/live, which is people who actually see it right now would already have done that. So it kind of feels redundant, but it's good for the recording to say that later on. I'm actually in Poland right now in Gdansk for the InfoShare conference, where I'm going to go later on as well. So if you want to meet me in person, why, I don't know. We can actually meet there as well. My talk was yesterday, so today I don't have to do much. But I'm in a hotel room and Wi-Fi is shared with all the other rooms, so hopefully everything will be fine, but we never know. So we might be freezing from time to time, but that's something you just have to deal with. Ironically enough, Dan, your connection is weird today as well, although you're in London, so it
I
should...
know.
I don't know what's going on there, like packets being sniffed by somebody, or I don't know. So it's a very weird one. But yeah, I was just on vacation for 2 weeks as well. So Dan, you filled in for the last 2 weeks. How was it without me? And it was sad, wasn't it?
Very sad, very lonely, Chris. It wasn't the same. I'll tell you what, I've really got to up my joke game. That's the one I think we were definitely missing that the last 2 weeks. I've been missing those. So it's good to have you back in the saddle. Yeah, the captain of the ship. And it feels a long time. It does feel a long time since we've had like a normal show. I think it's been like 3 weeks. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this week.
Yeah, it was fun. I was in Madeira, and it's such an interesting island. It's like the Hawaii of Europe kind of thing. Like it's like rainforesty and doing lots of hikes and stuff. What I also was confused about was the pricing. Like you go to the supermarket and with like 40% discount, a bottle of wine is €1.05, which is like cheaper than a bottle of water. And so, question for Portuguese people in the audience: how are you staying sober and why? It's just a very interesting like time. I was just standing there. This is odd, but seems to be like, yeah, it's working out for them. So that's pretty interesting. And we talked about this. What I found really fascinating as well. Like my mobile phone is still set in UK English, and Google Maps basically has this British lady doing the announcements where to turn and everything, and the way it pronounced all the Portuguese street names sounded almost like racist, like almost like, I mean, it like mocking the other language, so to say. And it's really bizarre that like it didn't recognize that this is obviously Portuguese, so no, don't pronounce it in like British clipped English. It feels like really bizarre that this is not a thing that's actually built in already.
I think you've got to make it so that the Brits can understand it, and I say that as one, so I think I can say that. But yeah, anglicizing everything is terrible, isn't it? It's like people don't even, I suppose it's like the a lot of Brits in real life, they don't even attempt it. They just sort of have a go, they get it wrong, and they confidently say, sorry, I only speak English. So you might as well make Google Maps do the same thing. But yeah, I have something similar on my phone. Actually, I have a northern lady who does notifications for everything. So she reads them out. So it'll be like, there's a new video on YouTube for you to go and watch. And I just think, I don't know where it's come from and I don't know how to change it. So I'm just going to leave it. But yeah, there we go.
I always thought, like, when I lived in England, I always was amazed that most banks had their call centers in Scotland, so people wouldn't understand them and just hang up. It was a very bizarre, like really harsh accent at times. And you're like, okay, is it cheap labor in Scotland? Or I don't know why that was the choice.
It could be.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. But talking about people who speak a lot of languages and actually pretty interesting, our guest today is Diana, and you reached out to me because you want to go away from like just being an engineer and go into developer relations. And we had a quick call, and I thought, like, why don't we do that live on the show? So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience? What do you do and where you are, and how many languages you speak? Because that's also impressive.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity of being here. I'm Diana Mick. I come from Colombia. I used to be an English teacher in Colombia. Then I came to Germany because I wanted to learn German, and I thought in a year I would be able to dominate the language. Of course, this was not the case, and that's why I'm still here wrestling with it. But then I met this very feminist group of people who were teaching women how to program, and I thought we were going to do robots, but it was web apps. And finally, okay, I got into developing, and now currently I'm a software engineer at my climate. And in my future, I would like to become a developer relations engineer or do developer relations, because I have noticed through my path that many things get lost in communication, and sometimes we, myself included, tend to forget the user of our products and the pains they have with it, and it would fulfill myself to see me as a sort of bridge between the developers who developed a product and the users of this product, be it an SDK or a tool. I worked as a platform engineer, and we were developing in our team tools for the other engineers of the company, so they were our end users. And there I got to leave a little bit this part, and it was the part I enjoyed the most of my job, like talking to them, seeing where their pain points are, and how the things that we were producing for them were not meeting their expectations, or what were we doing well.
It's an interesting concept, isn't it? I mean, we have like classic UX where it comes to interfaces and like naming of buttons and these kind of things. But when it comes to like software to software delivery, like you have to have the SDKs and you have to have the API documentation. And these things are not necessarily interfaces in the traditional sense, but they also have to have the same kind of research and the same kind of like user research as well. We never make personas for like APIs or for SDKs, but we make personas for like interfaces. So it would be interesting if learnings from that one market could be applied to the hardcore programming market as well.
Correct.
So you both were teachers. Dan was teaching video editing or like whatever it was, and you were teaching languages. And do you feel like there is a I mean, everybody doesn't have enough teachers, like, but it seems people leave the teaching market really quickly. What was the main reason why you wanted to get away from that? Both of you, Dan, as well.
Well, I was a teacher. I enjoyed the teaching part a lot, like bringing things over to the students and transmitting stuff. No, there were a couple of students that were more difficult, but what I suffered with was correcting exams, doing paperwork, writing these very long reports. And yeah, and then also for me, it's also a migration story, because when I came to Germany, my titles were not recognized and I couldn't start as a teacher again. So I was looking for something, yeah, that I could do, and I found development, and I am finding now this being this bridge that I think comes back to being a teacher and having passion for transmitting knowledge or seeing where gaps are.
I mean, I've got bad news for you. If you go into DevRel, you will have to write reports as well and like show numbers to people. And the great number is always percentages. You can always say like, we got 40% more users, meaning we got like 3 users instead of 2 or something like that. So you can always use that, but the reporting is not going away unless, I mean, Dan, you report to me, so we don't do that. But like in larger companies, it will always be a thing. But the teaching skills are transferable to a degree, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, to jump in there, I think they definitely are. I think that the last thing you said, Diana, was almost the thing that I thought that's at the heart of it. It's like transmitting information or sharing what you've learned. And I think a lot of teachers almost have that story of when they were young, they were doing it as a child, they would learn something and then they couldn't wait to tell their parents or their friends. And they love seeing people's eyes light up at new information. And I think that's what it boils down to. It's, you know, your interests might change as a teacher. You might go from being interested in languages, sort of written, spoken languages, through to programming languages like you have, Diana. And it's not really any different. You know, you've got so much knowledge and now you want to share it. And the fact you speak multiple languages, I think, is such a massive skill as well, because not only can you then share that information, but you can put it in the nuanced way, you know, in different languages. So, I mean, yeah, an amazing skill set to have. Super teacher, right? If you're a teacher and you speak multiple languages, that's amazing. I think you'll be really well suited for it.
I mean, it's always tricky as well when you teach languages in school and your teacher is not a native speaker of the language, but in my case, it's a German person that speaks horrible French teaching you horrible French. That can actually really kill your interest into something. And I guess it's the same with like development and coding. Like if the people don't know where they're coming from and it's just a marketing person that goes into DevRel, and instead of knowing the real skill and knowing the pains and the ins and outs of delivery, then you will never be a person that actually gets people excited about your product because your job is to know these pains. I mean, I feel sorry for you because German is just, as you said, like I thought I can do it within a year. There's so many weird things. I think my favorite is umfahren, which is a word that depending on how you pronounce it, means the opposite of itself. So when you have like umfahren, means when the A is a bit longer, it means you avoid somebody. Umfahren, and when you do it the A short, then you run that person over. And it's the same word, and it's written the same way. So it's the opposite of itself, just a little nuance in pronunciation. It's a bit like a typo in an API call that could make a complete different result, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's a tricky one.
It's an interesting one. Now, you said you had the Women in Code group or whatever it was called, but which group was that? Because with the latest shortages in DEI in America, a lot of these things went away. There were a lot of real good groups about women in technology. A lot of them don't have any funding anymore. Is this still a thing that you're working on with, and are they still in a good spot in this case?
So it was Rails Girls Berlin when I started. Then it rebranded itself to Code Curious, and it's still going. But I'm not a part of it anymore because due to work or whatever, I couldn't put so much time in. But I know they have been struggling because before there was like more support. There was also this company that was called Travis CI that was supporting Girls Rails Summer of Code and Rails Girls Berlin and many things. And then they got bought by US Americans, and this faded away, and now there's no scholarship, also because of the changes in the government.
Okay, let's take a look at some links that we can talk about because we have them and we might as well use them. And we're going to put them on the live page as well for you to take a look at them as well if you wanted to. I mean, the first bit that I'm really excited about is that responsive design is now 15 years old. And it feels like it should be such a natural thing to have, that all websites should be like responsive. But I still see so many times, especially like login things for Wi-Fi, or even like my shares, when I take a look at them, they don't do that meta element to just resize it to the size of your mobile phone. And you got this like big box in the middle of the screen with like font 3 pixels. It's like, do you think responsive design is a thing that just is taken as a given now, seeing that people use CSS frameworks that have it built in? Or is it worthwhile that Ethan Marcotte here said basically like, let's remind people about it, that this is still a good idea?
I think it's still a good idea to remind it, because as a user now, sometimes you go to plenty of pages and then you want, let's say, to buy something in the mobile and really want to buy it, and then the buy button is not visible in your mobile because it's really small. Like, I'm super surprised, not surprised anymore, but sometimes I feel this needs to be reminded. I bump into these things pretty often, I have to say.
Yeah, I'm using Edge on Android, which is weird. But what really fascinates me, how many times I enter a thing into a text field in a website, and then the keyboard pops up and overlaps that entry field. So I don't see what I'm typing any longer, and I can't even edit it. I mean, the first result in the keyboard is what I typed just right now, but the autocompletion then kicks in. The amount of times I sent data wrong because of that is just fascinating. It seems like detecting the virtual keyboard is still a thing that's kind of broken in a lot of operating systems. And it's interesting to see that I using Edit GPT a lot right now, which is an editor that allows you to write, but then uses an AI review of your text. And this one is one of those, like with a web app with like 15 little boxes in them and all of them having an overflow of scroll. And when you use them on the mobile phone, you basically have all the scroll bars hidden, so you don't even know what is scrollable and what is not. And it's just like we seem to be overcomplicating these things. Like it's interesting to see. Like, I mean, Dan, you used like things like Tailwind and these kind of things. Do you think that overflow is a preset that people just don't override, or is it something that just was a given for people by now?
I think people misuse it. I think they can throw it onto lots of different elements and then create kind of especially when you've got like a fixed element, maybe like a header or like a sidebar, and then you want like a scrollable kind of main section. I see people doing really strange things where they want to maybe have like two sort of fixed elements, and then they start using nested overflow, you know, on just the y-axis and things like this, and it gets really, really messy. I mean, I do think that, you know, to sort of leave Tailwind to one side a little bit, because I've got my own issues with it, because it's done a big update, and actually I think you're almost going back to media queries and it becomes very strange as to why I'm even using it. But the thing that popped into my mind when I saw this, because I think it was last week that I went to go on like a dashboard. It was a big company. I'm trying to remember what it was now. Maybe it's best not mentioning it, but I went onto a big sort of dashboard, logged in, and I was on a mobile device. I think it might have even been like a vertical iPad. So it's not even a very small device. And it just came up with one of those, sorry, this hasn't been optimized for a mobile device. Please check it out on desktop. But then instead of letting me see the bad, you know, desktop that hasn't been optimized, it just redirected me somewhere else. And I thought, I don't think you can do that in 2025. I don't think there's an excuse personally. I know some things are very, very difficult to make responsive, but how do you feel about that? Is there ever an excuse for just saying, we're not going to make it responsive, you need to look at this on a desktop device, or don't look at it at all? Or is it just me that thinks that that's like unforgivable?
I think that's unforgivable, but sometimes, like for internal tools, right, like admin tools or whatever, that you expect people not to be working on their mobile, I think that would be the exception.
I mean, some things need space, but then I guess in your case, what you said, it was just a media query that had a fixed pixel amount and didn't realize that like that pixel amount does not amount on a high-res iPad, because the pixels are different than what they're supposed to be, I guess. So this is a lot of like assumptions, but yeah, I mean, this brings us to the topic that you wanted to cover, like the empathy with the user. It's like we're making choices on behalf of the user rather than like giving them an option to say like, you know what, this isn't working, show me the desktop side that probably will be working. And people want to overwrite these kind of things all the time. Whereas like, yeah, it's not your choice. The end user is the one who actually has to read the thing. So make sure that you're doing that. I mean, I remember when it was like, you need the 1024 resolution to see this website. And these things, luckily enough, are out of the window now. But it's still very bizarre how people put far too much content on a mobile interface as well when it comes to responsive design. So instead of just like stacking it and being like 6,000 screens on your mobile phone, just show as much content as you need for the form factor and allow people to dive in deeper. How are you on endless scrolling? I'm still not a fan, and I'm still confused about like how every SPA website tool was basically like, oh, endless scrolling is how people want to actually do that. Is it something you enjoy, or is it like a pagination thing makes more sense?
I think that's a tricky question, because it has the hook factor, no? Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you want to buy something and you don't know, and then you waste a lot of time, you wanted to look for that for 5 minutes, and then it's half an hour and you're still there scrolling. On the other side, I find it tricky from the user perspective, like, okay, pagination, no, maybe doesn't go with the look. Today it will feel weird in some pages, but what I really like is sometimes when it says this number of results, and then I know, okay, I have to filter this, or I am going to waste an enormous time of my life, and I only wanted to budget 5 minutes. But it's also this hook factor, I think. companies sometimes are looking for.
Yeah, it feels like the effectiveness when you talk to marketing people and you talk to like the people in your company to give you the money. It's always like we always were compared, like when I've worked on browsers, how much time is spent in app. Like the success factor of Facebook and TikTok and those is like, oh, people are using that all the time, and you expect your tool to do the same, and that's the measure of the effectiveness of it. But when it comes to developer tools, actually most of the time when you go into the developer tool, build something or fix something and get out of it, that is actually the higher quality of it. Not like that you stay within developer tools and stay there the whole day. Like the amount of like time spent in it was just bizarre. Like when I worked on Edge, it was like the amount of time spent in developer tools was compared to in the main browser. And I'm like, yeah, people are watching Netflix. They're basically watching 15 episodes of Games of Thrones. They don't do that in the developer tools, although you can probably render it on the console. But it's a very weird comparison that this like stickiness of people staying in one app is seen as a success factor. And I think it's actually a horrible idea, because I want to use 10 different apps at the same time. That's what multitasking is for. But oftentimes you get asked, like, how can we make people stay within our app? And it feels like a very short-sighted and actually offensive to the end user idea.
Does it not feel a bit like predatory, might be a strong word, but it feels strange for that to be the game, you know, that somebody's saying, use my app and I'm going to use psychological techniques to keep you here as long as I can. And we spoke to the co-founders of Oscar Stories last week, and to give you the context, their app lets parents create AI generated bedtime stories for their children that feature their children. So it's a really nice kind of way of using AI and personalizing the content. But they've done a lot, and they talk a lot about the kind of ethical use and the ethical engineering and empathizing with the users in saying, well, if we just make this a device, so it's an app, it's on a device, it's a screen effectively, that we encourage children to look at as much as possible, does that not feel a little bit strange? And so they've almost had to engineer it around, we want the family to use it, but we want them to use it in different ways. Maybe it's an audio book, maybe they just read it as a book, you know, not on a device, so that they can have that empathy with the fact that it's children and parents. And that just feels like a very strange way. If everyone's playing the game of keep somebody on the app as long as you can, that doesn't sit right when it's that kind of product. So yeah, empathy is the key word, definitely.
Well, I guess also shorts are another issue. Like Netflix just redesigned their front page to have like short content, and on my TV I get games offered all the time, and I'm like, no, why would I want that? Like, it seems like we're pushed into this consumption market of like short content rather than other bits that YouTube just announced that they're gonna find the most interesting bit in your video and show ads before that. Which kind of means, like, as a content provider or as a video creator, you basically you did the right thing of having a story arc to get people excited, and then have the thing, and then there's going to be a toilet brush advertising right in front of it. You can't even do anything about it. So that feels like we're getting the internet taken away from us by these companies because they want to control it more and more. Which also brings me to the thing about Microsoft now shutting down the Bing search APIs. And I find that really sad, because I worked on them, and not on the new thing. I want to open it in the left screen. So yeah, we had like, for years, we had like APIs that allowed us to do build searches on our own products. And now Microsoft shut them down. Google shut theirs down quite some time ago as well. And it really feels like we're being pushed into chatbots and into these AI overviews in search. And I really don't know who benefits from that. Like, is it new users that expect that kind of functionality? But there is like the whole, as a content creator or as a company that publishes things on the web, you don't get any links anymore. You don't get any clicks anymore, because you just get an AI overview. So do you think this is something that we just have to deal with, or is it worthwhile to push against that? Diana, what do you think? Is there a way to save the web, or is it something that people just expect to ask ChatGPT for something nowadays?
Yeah, of course, many people adopted and engaged with GPT, but I, at the beginning, I also interacted a lot with ChatGPT, but I noticed a difference For example, I added this extension, I think, for it to do search again. Some people found it magnificent. For me, it's cumbersome because why? I noticed it's not helpful. I open a search engine better that gives me the links if that's what I want, because I think I am not so sure about this, but in my head there's this thought I am wasting less energy, compute power, by going to a search engine and searching it directly. And also, ChatGPT or something like that thinks a little bit and then gives you the links that also may be hallucinated in some cases. So yeah, it's a very interesting moment because of this, but I think people should also push back, and if not everybody is doing it, they're going to feel it in their metrics and reports as well, that this is not working. But this is a very like fresh thing that started happening few months ago. So yeah, I'm very interesting to see how this turns out.
I mean, I haven't used Google in a long time. I'm using Bing, and I'm also using DuckDuckGo for a lot of stuff. But I heard that the AI overviews are now turned on for everybody, and that's basically the first thing that you get. And it might just be old men wanting things from the past, but I feel it's like hitting the "I feel lucky" button and getting one thing, and that's it. You can't even do anything after that.
I wonder if there's something more to sort of to worry about, because I don't know if you remember the arguments around net neutrality. That was a big thing, wasn't it? Around like, are we essentially going to have the biggest companies able to sort of pay their way to the front of the queue when it comes to search results? I think that was essentially the argument. And I remember people worrying, saying it means that small creators, people that don't have the backing of say Google, Microsoft, etc., are just never going to be found. And I wonder if there's something like that happening, where we had this idea of all these models coming out and that they were just going to be like all of the wealth of human knowledge, and that they were just going to give us a kind of objective response. But I think it feels like we're seeing a little bit of the big companies, and they're trying to protect their models. And then with that, it comes, they seem to be less transparent around who they're going to favor. So it's like, essentially what I'm saying is, are we going to find that if we use these chatbots, that they favor Google-based links or Microsoft-based links, like whoever's provided the model then sort of favors the articles, documentation, whatever it might be, of the people that made the model? It feels like that it's just going to push us towards links that have been prioritized by the model when it was created, rather than just everybody's, we're just trying to find all of the information and provide it back to you. Then why hide the links, or why not be forthcoming with those links? Is it because those links are perhaps Microsoft centric, if we're talking about Microsoft's models, etc.? It's a hard one to articulate, but it just feels like there's something happening that actually we should be a bit concerned about, but maybe we're not seeing it immediately as to what the issue is, because we all just use our own LLMs and the ones that we like.
I mean, it feels like that search has gone that way a long time ago. Like the first 20 results are always ads, or like things that have been promoted through Bing or through Google, and it's now even more less transparent. And that's why it's so sad that these APIs go away, because the search APIs allowed you to build your own search on top of it. And I remember we had an internal hack day at Microsoft at one time, and one of the features of Bing was basically that, no, it was at Yahoo that turned into Bing later on, was you could do safe search and unsafe search. Basically, you could do, but unsafe search we didn't have. We just had safe search, which filters things out. So I did an unsafe search engine that only gave you the unsafe results by filtering them around. And I love that you can make like an own search experience with these APIs. And Microsoft was very forthcoming. The others were basically like very limited or like rate limited. But Microsoft like, okay, here's the Bing API, go for it. And it's really sad that these things are gone away. And the other problem that you mentioned is that smaller publishers are actually not getting the results shown. But at the same time, they get the traffic from the bots. Like the AI bots are scraping the web like immensely right now. So your content is being ingested and maybe sometimes shown, but you don't even have a way of actually seeing what it is. So you pay the traffic on your server, but you don't get the benefits because you cannot show any ads around them, or you don't get that kind of thing. So that's really interesting how that's changing right now as well. And it makes you wonder if it's worthwhile to be a publisher on the web if you're not actually spending ad money to actually promote your things. We got the same here. I mean, like this show, we uploaded, and when we put a Google ad on it, then we got like thousands of more viewers. But like, it feels wrong that we have to put an ad on it. But it seems to be the only way to stand out these days, because it's just too cheap for people to do, to actually promote things. It's really tricky when you get started as a content creator and you just don't see any views of your stuff. But that's the reason, because other people pay more about it. I found that when it comes to AI and organizing things, this Klarna story was really, really interesting. That it's like a few days ago, it was like the Klarna CEO says AI helped companies shrink workforce by 40%, be much more effective and save much more money that way. And then a few days later, it's like that basically that Klarna is hiring humans again because the AI replacements offer low quality output. So this is unfortunate, isn't it? Like you sack 40% of your people and then you have to ask them back or ask for other engineers to join your company. Why would I do that when I just learned that you sacked 40% of your engineers because you thought AI was the solution? So, Diana, in your older jobs that you did, do you think a lot of them can be done by AI now, or is it something that you say like humans are still the better way of doing it?
So I think now it's the AI for everything, and everybody's pushing really hard, and that's also where the money is. I think some people are more skeptical about this. I think it's a great thing, or it can be a great thing, but yeah, there are many things that still require humans. It's my take. I don't see like, yeah, the AI is the solution for everything. It is being pushed this way sometimes, and sometimes no, we buy into that what we want to believe, and people who want to like save a lot of money in personal or whatever, oh, they think this makes them giddy. We want to cut costs. AI is the answer. But even if you're a normal user of AI, you see that there are some cracks in everything, in the code. Maybe it helps for making, I don't know, like sometimes some concepts are difficult for me to understand, and I ask the AI, and then I validate, and it has made my work maybe quicker, or it has helped me brainstorm things or look into things in another way. I think it is a good tool, but in many things, if you just use the AI not critically, which is also difficult to do and becoming even more difficult to do, you're going to get some crappy results.
I mean, I wondered, like, look, reading that article then, that it's the language that's a bit strange. You know, it's the way that the headline says, the Klarna CEO says AI helped companies shrink the workforce. I don't know if that's just me, but I sort of say, well, that helped feels like the wrong word, because helped suggests you're doing something good, but it depends who you're looking at. It's good for Klarna if they're saving money, but it's really bad for the 40% of staff that were let go. And Chris, I thought of, you know, I'm probably best bringing up your talk because you'll have just done it. But, you know, I think the title of your talk was, you know, are we making ourselves redundant when it comes to using AI? And that's the key word, like redundant, literally in this sense, you know, being laid off. And I think it's there's a number of things with this, right? We've got the CEO trying to be a visionary, you know, we're going to do something big and bold, and look what we're going to do. We're going to jump on the hype train and transform our business overnight using AI. But it does feel quite scary when I know that we're not just going to keep staff on when we can do things with AI, but it's, for me, it seems way too early in the AI revolution to be actively getting rid of staff members, because Diana, you said it, it's got massive holes in it. The AI has holes. Now that's like bringing on a member of staff who just makes massive mistakes all the time, doesn't acknowledge it, maybe doesn't even realize it, and just carries on doing the same thing at scale. So I don't know. This to me is quite, it's not a good thing. And I think it can reflect badly on the company. As you're saying, Chris, they've let a load of people go. Why would you want to go and now apply for a job? Because you're thinking they're going to get rid of me if an LLM can do this in 3 months.
Yeah, there's also there was a message about Amazon as well, where Amazon engineers were complaining that like the push to AI and the push that people they have to use AI tools in the company led to like a lot of stress for them, because what used to be a 4-week process or a 4-week sprint is now a 1-week sprint, because we bought this AI thing and you actually now have to use it. So instead of just being more efficient and getting a chance to actually hone and clean up what you've done before, the efficiency becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy, and the company is just turning the screw on you, and like basically you got to deliver much more because we paid for that LLM to do. Like I mean, when you look at it and you look at a Claude or whatever system, you have to pay like $200 a month for every engineer to get full access to these things. So that when you're just looking at the money and the efficiency of your company, then basically, yeah, of course, people have to deliver more. But I never saw the sense in delivering more in a shorter amount of time. That always sounded to me like a very dangerous idea, because quality will most likely suffer. So it's a weird thing. And I mean, I don't want to call out Klarna. Other people made the same mistakes, but it was just like, I love that within a day, these 2 headlines came one after the other. Like, oh, by the way, we're so much more efficient now. Oh, damn, nothing works. Can we get the people back, please? So yeah, that's an interesting bit to see. The fear of being seen, I thought, was a really interesting one as well, and I thought it would be interesting for you Diana, to talk about. It's basically that person is basically writing and saying like, I have so many ideas. I want to do more writing. I want to do more videos and stuff. But I also see all the people that I look up to, and they're all technically very, very gifted, and it feels like what I do will never be read by them. So the whole like feeling imposter syndrome even before you get started. And that can be really stifling. Like, where do you see yourself? Do you feel this as well? Or do you just say like, okay, let's throw it out and see if it sticks?
Yeah, I have to be like, until now, I think I wanted to start a blog, like on the way I see technical problems, but I always was seeing these seniors, and when I entered the field with very difficult terms that I didn't know what they mean, and they were always talking, I don't know, polymorphism or whatnot, and I have to go and look that out, or what, and in which context, and I was so worried about this. And with time, but it has taken a lot of work, and I'm a bit sad to say, yeah, until recently I think I went over this hurdle. But I think it is a very, very, very common thing, especially in tech, especially if you didn't study computer science, getting all this baggage that you think I lost. And as tech evolves so quickly, you're always feeling you are behind. You have to catch up, you have to catch up, you have to catch up. And this is not linear, but our brains tend to think it's linear and that we can catch up in this way. And I have seen this in myself and in many other people, but it's the fear of putting yourself out there and being told you don't know enough. And yeah, I just recently got rid of that fear, and that's also why I am here.
What was it that sort of was the biggest how did you transform in that way of thinking? Was it just sort of getting used to it with time, and you felt like, was there like something that happened that made you go, now I'm legitimate, or now I don't feel like an imposter? Or was it just over time and then you thought, actually now I feel okay? You know, was it a gradual thing?
It was a gradual thing, but then the last change came like this, because I also started to notice with more senior people and in the different stations of my career, why do they know everything? And even though if I want to be at their level, I don't know, and I don't get to be part of these discussions, or I get excluded if I am willing. And then it hit me, it's because they have been the longest in the company, and it's a little bit like a power structure. They created the system, they have all the context, they know it, it's easy for them. Maybe they didn't make it accessible for other people, and now they have to over explain some bits that are not super readable. This is more effort for them. But in that moment, when this revelation dawned upon me that, yeah, in software as in other cliques in the world, there are these hidden power structures. That was what allowed me to say, okay, I also have made my experiences with this. I know, maybe I don't know all the jargon, maybe I don't know the little hacks that no one documented in our code base, but I can also talk about them, how that slowed me down, what happened when I discovered them, and that no one documented this, and that no one could fix this in 10 years. These things were very interesting for me, but that was when I stopped looking at the things so near and having this spotlight fear on myself.
Is it I mean, this is a tough topic to bring up, but is it a gender thing? I basically don't. I hear these stories oftentimes that these are basically, it's a male developer that basically has been in the company for 10 years, and a young startup, cool 18-year-old Silicon Valley kid would have the balls to just stand up to that person publicly and just push things. But you always hear like, okay, what can we do that basically it's not always the guys talking in the room, and what can we do to empower the people that actually might have a different approach? As you said, like, it's not understandable to me, like, let me document it and let me point it out to you. But it feels to me there is this huge discrepancy. Like, I mean, this article here right now is by a lady as well, so you don't see that much from guys. We just basically seem to be like, oh, okay, we don't care if it doesn't work out. But there seems to be this like fear of treading on people's toes. And to a degree, these toes are meant to be tread on. We need these changes. But it feels like very interesting to see honest posts like that. And please write more of those, because I want to hear more of those stories. Like you just said as well, like that those power structures is something that you probably don't look at all the time. But for some people, they're very, very transparent.
I have seen this in guys as well, but way less. I also have to say, like, no, you cannot say, oh, all of the women and or all of the men. But like now with my experience, I do feel it was because we women are socialized in a different way, no, from the time we are little. We have to behave in a certain way. I'm happy to see that is changing nowadays, but it is not changing fast enough. No, so I still see these behaviors in, and I think I was socialized, and I am doing a lot of work to undo this and be able to speak for myself and not having this fear. But as you said, is more women, sadly.
Well, I think it also turns the other way around. Like, we have our biases that how we were brought up and socialized as men as well, especially in like more machismo countries. And it's up to us to actually shut up and step back instead of just expecting we have this right to be the person that calls the shot. That's something that seems to be ingrained to a lot of people. And when I look at like the alpha male X crowd, people out there and saying like, I'm a 10x developer and you're not doing this, then you're not a thing. It's like, I'm so tired of these people. Please shut up and let other people do the talking at times.
It's not helpful. I mean, I just look at the comments there, Chris, that, you know, just look at the comments at the end of that article. That's what it's about, right? There's some really nice comments where the top comment says, thanks for the blog post. I really needed that. You know, and I think that's the power of it. This is, I couldn't agree more, Chris. I don't want to go on a big rant, but when you're saying here about the 10x kind of the tech bro types, it's so unhelpful for people that are trying to enter the industry or find their feet in it, or just create something and put it out there into the ether. It's not helpful when people do these kind of gatekeeping things. And I think these kinds of posts go such a long way, because it's vulnerable, it's honest, it's transparent. And then those comments are, they're so nice. They're so nice to read, because somebody says, what I took from it was the ebb and flow of life and how that is okay. We don't have to be who we were. That's what it's all about. I think that's so nice. This is my new favorite blog, because there's some amazing posts from this person, and I just love how it looks as well, the kind of terminal look. Just have to say that it's beautiful. But yeah,
I'm confused about this. I see this right now. There's a lot of like the Fediverse kind of thing integration, and I'm like, this is all traffic. These are all images that have been loaded that don't put any extra things in there. Like, or on my blog, I see all these reposted things from Mastodon now, and I got like 6,000 comments that just say reposted. And I wonder if there's something that we might be going in the wrong direction with this, to actually show off our face, to say like, oh, we're not the X crowd, but we're just flooding our interfaces with like avatars that don't make much sense if there's no other context. Like, why would I click any of them? Is my question here. Like, and if that's not the thing, why do we display them? Feel good. 502 people liked it. I don't know. One thing that I just had as well, which ties into this a bit as well, was the that open to work badge thing. That was interesting because I came across this X post where somebody said like, nothing makes me want to hire somebody less than this, like showing the open to work badge. And my answer was a bit short-lived. But I mean, and I explained to people and said like, well, it makes sense to show it, because like the cool 10x developers basically like, that's desperation. You're just really trying to get hired. But to me, this is professionalism, because it shows me you are available right now. And on LinkedIn, I look through LinkedIn, and if somebody doesn't have it, I don't know if they're actually looking for a job, and it would be a waste of time to contact that person to talk about if they want to have a job. But it feels so weird that something like that is seen as a sign of weakness, where it's just actually a very sensible thing to do. And yeah, please, if you also in a position like us and you see posts like that, react like me, maybe more mature, but react and call these people out on their arrogance, because this market is for everybody. And if that means you get the job and you actually just got laid off, and just showing this that you're open to work, that makes you feel better, that's actually worthwhile, and it's not like a fake thing to do. So when it comes to looking for jobs, Diana, what was your thing? Did you get it by word of mouth? Did you get it by sending lots of CVs out? How did you get your jobs?
Yeah, to be honest, the first developing job I had in Germany was sending an SMS because they had this funny idea, and my husband, who's German, was really skeptical about this. Like, don't do it, it's a scam. And I was like, I will do it anyway. And then yeah, I got an invitation to all the application process, did my interviews, got this job. And then the like half of the other jobs were because of word of mouth. Somebody referred me, and it was really easy. And I also had like the people also saying at my company there are open positions, but I did like the normal thing of sending the CV, going through the technical challenge, etc., etc.
And reviewing somebody, or like giving somebody a recommendation on LinkedIn and stuff, costs you about a minute of your time, and it's really worthwhile. It could make the difference of that person. Like, I mean, of course, every platform has their own thing. Microsoft had the internal kudos on their own system, and I mean, Slack has this as well, where you can give people things. But just like when you hear that people are being laid off right now at a certain company, what I normally do is just write a message like, sorry to hear about this. Do you want a recommendation? Do you want me to help you look for something else? It's really important that we look out for people in this regard, and it doesn't cost you much. And it's really worthwhile for them. Like seeing a good recommendation of somebody, it's a fun thing to do.
Totally. And the hurtful thing, going back to the post you showed bashing the open to work thing, is that some people might feel actually intimidated or shut down and won't ever put this open to work badge just because they think, okay, I think you're really down when you don't have a job, you just got laid off, like your mental capacity is not at its greatest, your self-esteem also is not at its greatest, and then you read such a thing and maybe you don't dare, missing opportunities because of this bashing culture.
I had a few good comments on LinkedIn about this for the post. People said like, oh, thank you. You just inspired me to turn it on, because I was wondering about if it's worthwhile or not. And like, you're right. It's not desperation. It's professionalism. It's showing like, I'm available right now, because you might be laid off, but you don't care. You don't want to do half a year something else. Like, you don't want to get hired. But this is basically the way of showing it. And I mean, people are like, "Oh, it looks ugly," and you're like, "Come on, like seriously, this is your criticism here." Like,
what a strange thing to get annoyed about. I feel like, again, it's just that part of wider gatekeeping, isn't it? I think it's what an odd thing. I cannot even understand how somebody could get annoyed about what somebody else has done with their own LinkedIn profile. I mean, you can do whatever you like, right? Call yourself whatever you like, describe yourself however you like. It's none of my business. And if you get a job because of that, I think it's strange for somebody to not be happy for that person. I almost can't understand the psychology why somebody would A, have an issue with it, and then B, not be happy for that person. Because Chris, you said it, if they get a job because they did it, then it's worth it. And that person's opinion is just irrelevant ultimately because it worked and they did it. So there you go.
one thing that drove me nuts is when people have these headers in LinkedIn that have lots of URLs on them, and you're like, "This is an image; they're not clickable." Like, do you expect me to type that in? Like, what is the idea of this? Like, a QR code, fine, but like just linking all your stuff in the header image, you're like, no, this is I will not type this. Why do you do that? So that's an interesting bit as well, where it's like the other thing that I see a lot is like blog posts that get generated and have an image with the headline in it, and then the headline in the HTML as well. But like you basically, the alt text of the image is the same headline again as well. So you got like two headlines in the document because they wanted to have an image for social media preview or something like that. So we do a lot of weird stuff to the end user, and especially a blind person with a screen reader would get like the same information 5 times instead of it once. I want to use this as an opportunity to plug. Next week, we're going to have a Web Dev and AI Day, the Accessibility and AI Day on Thursday. I'm going to fly to Vienna and do it live there, so we don't have that computing problem that we have right now. We got lots and lots of accessibility experts coming in and giving great talks about how AI can help or hinder accessibility and what the new EU guidelines actually mean for that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of weird thoughts about people that accessibility is something that has to be ugly and is extra work, and it's not. It's like just feeling more empathy for the end user out there as well. Diana, so we're got another 5 minutes. What's something that on your mind right now that basically you could tell our audience? Like, I love when you talked earlier about your own imposter syndrome and how you got across it. Like, what are other tools that made you get out more and basically say, like, you know what, I'm good enough. I'm not, the imposter syndrome is a liar.
So, okay, I have to, like things that come now, reflecting a lot on my skill set and things that I enjoy doing during the work, and trying to do more of these because then I enjoy them more, and it creates like a momentum. Then another thing that doesn't have to do with engineering, but maybe with personality, I ran into a website. I forgot the name, but how many times have you been rejected or something, or get rejected more or something like that? And it was like 100 challenges where you get rejected, you try to get a no and see what happens. So one of them is try to get a burger refill at a McDonald's or something. You go and ask, would you give me a burger refill? It's expecting to get a no, and then when you get the no, you ask why. But putting myself out there and being on the receiving end of a no, and knowing that I didn't die, it was the no, but what else, like what other significant impact is it going to have? Or I throw an idea and maybe my colleagues find it funny or whatever, or not helpful. Well, they can give me the feedback, and then I can try to think, why didn't they find it helpful, but try to do it better next time. No, because having this curiosity can bring me, at least, and I think a lot of people, farther and go against our limits of where we have fear of putting ourselves out there or doing the stuff we really enjoy.
There's also a delay thing there. That's another bit. A lot of people are just basically, I wrote something, nobody cared. But it might be that 4 months later somebody finds it, like not what we talked about with search engines earlier, but at that, in my case, it was like that. I sometimes I've been blogging since 2005, and I had it as a scratch pad. When I learned something, I wrote it down because I want to remember it. And then like 10 years later, I Googled it and found my own blog post because I forgot about it. But like other people do the same thing. I get these feedback from like 16-year-old, 10-year-old blog posts, and people like, oh, finally somebody wrote it like that. At that time, nobody cared about this blog post. The traffic was non-existent. But 10 years later, somebody, oh my God, you wrote that, and I understand it. And I think that's the thing that you should not stop just throwing ideas out there. Even if they're not a success immediately, they might become a success later when somebody searches the right way or uses the right prompt, and the LLM finds your thing as the answer that was the shortest and most succinct one. So it's never a waste to publish things on the web. You could do wrong things like publish personal data or like publish where you are. That might be a danger. But like writing down a thought like that is never a waste. Even nobody watches it, fine. Give it a year, give it 2 years, and people might be coming along. So this is something that I learned the hard way, it's a very interesting thing to see that there's a longevity in content because the web does not forget. And it's a good thing to think about as well. Like you might be a success in like 2 to 3 weeks time. And it's really depressing when you try to be very clever and write that one thing that probably gets a lot of traffic and it just doesn't work out. I mean, Dan, you've been doing that for our magazine and for your own stuff as well. It can be super frustrating to try to do everything right and nothing happens. And then the thing that just like was an off-the-cuff thing that you just wrote down becomes the runaway success.
Yeah, so many times, Chris, I mean, I can speak about even just shorts that we make. You know, we'll do these sorts of things, and then you get all of the shorts that come out of it, and it's usually the outtakes. It's the outtakes that do the best, right? So it's the thing that was accidental that no time was put into that does best. Yeah, and I also say, Chris, how many times I've found articles of yours from 10 years ago. I'm one of those people that I think I did it 2 weeks ago. I searched for something and I thought, this looks familiar. And then I scrolled up and I was like, it's Chris's website. This is where I've seen it. So yeah, it's absolutely true. You've written things that will be helping people out for decades to come, for sure.
Well, thanks very much, Diana, for coming. This was really, really fun. I hope you got something good out of it. Lots of good comments. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
This was amazing. A lot of people interacting. So you seem you're already on the best path to be inspiring to a lot of people because they have your back already. So what's the rest of your day like? What's it going to do today? Are you at work? Are you going back to work?
I'm at work. So yeah. So now going into some accessibility meetings, precisely what you were talking about before. I'm also on that and figuring out with the European Act, like the company finally said, oh, we have to do something about this. So yeah, that's the rest of my day. Thanks a lot for having me here.
This was great. Any last words from you, Dan?
Oh, it's Wednesday. I'll say the sun's out. I mean, whether it is where you are, it probably is. Most of Europe's pretty sunny. But yeah, just have a good Wednesday. Chris, enjoy the rest of Poland. And we'll see you later in the week. And to everybody watching, we'll see you next week.
I'm going to do the Berlin thing and get one of those electric scooters to go to the venue now. It's like 6 kilometers away, but the taxis take ages in Gdansk for some reason. So I took one yesterday, and the only difference is the potholes here about 5 times the size that we have in Berlin. But if you know how to use an electric scooter, then it's not an issue at all anymore. And yeah, it sent me through a station yesterday, so I had to carry the thing through it, and then it wouldn't start anymore because it was outside the region where you're supposed to ride it. But I'll be okay. I'll be fine. It's nothing that I can't handle because it's going to be interesting. I was one of the other speakers yesterday, had a brand new Volvo driving back, and I've never seen one of those cars with the head-up display in the window. Basically, you see the arrow in front of you on the windscreen, rather than just on a thing. And that was really cool. And now I don't want a car, but like I found like this is really amazing that these things exist already. So Volvo, if you're listening and you want to sponsor me with a free car, I'm totally fine. You bring it up to North Berlin and I find a parking lot, I promise you. Other than that, I want to thank all of you for watching, and see you next week at the AI and AI and Accessibility Day. and see you in the newsletter on Friday, which I now have to finish as well. So thanks very much, Diana. Thanks very much, Dan. This was We Are Developers Live for this Wednesday, and we see you next Wednesday if that is all that you want to have and none of the other bits that we do. See you soon.